Welcome or welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Megan Grant and I help people like you find freedom through freelancing. All right, so using LinkedIn to source leads. LinkedIn is like a black hole of potential clients. So where do you even start? If I'm sitting down and I know that I want to source leads, my go-to method is to search my niche, filter those results by companies, and then start going through the employees of those companies to see who works in my field so that I can send them an invitation to connect. A second method that I teach my students in Revenue Spark is to use Boolean searches, which I have a video on, so I will drop that link below. Essentially, Boolean searches help you get laser focused so that you can find the exact types of professionals that you want on LinkedIn. I might search something like SEO or content, or I might type in editor and writing. In a nutshell, you're telling LinkedIn, I want to find people who match these traits. X-ray searches are a similar concept in terms of helping you narrow your search faster, and I have a video on that as well. You really need to think outside the box because LinkedIn leaves so much room for creativity when it comes to how you can use the platform to source leads. If you think that this is already a lot in and of itself, it is, but I teach my students in Revenue Spark 5 more methods for sourcing leads. So we never, ever run out of leads, ever. As you're collecting leads on LinkedIn, put all of their information in a spreadsheet and keep that spreadsheet up to date. In Revenue Spark, I give my students a templated spreadsheet that I already built out for them. And anytime they come to me for help, the first words out of my mouth are, send me your spreadsheet. Tracking all of this work is going to help you a ton. You cannot commit it to memory. So at this point, you have this giant spreadsheet full of leads. Now what do you do with them? Well, you got to connect with them. I already have a bunch of videos on sending direct messages on LinkedIn, so I will drop those links in the description below. In some of those videos, I even tell you exactly what my students and I say when we reach out to our own leads. Rather, in this video, I'm going to highlight some of the biggest mistakes that I see freelancers make during this part of the process and what you need to be doing instead. Mistake number 1, their messages are way too long. Your leads don't know you. They're strangers. Do not send them your life story. For now, in your LinkedIn DM, stick to who you are and why you're reaching out. Mistake number 2, they sell right off the bat. You do not reach out to people on LinkedIn to sell. You reach out to start the conversation. That's all you're doing at this point. You're going to sell later. Mistake number 3, they don't personalize the message. Your leads know when you copied and pasted the same message to a bunch of people. It's very obvious. I know this might sound a little harsh, but if you can't take a few extra seconds to personalize the message to your leads, then you're not ready to land clients. One thing I'm always telling my Revenue Spark students is to slow the F down. We are talking about building new relationships and having conversations, and you can't rush that. Think about it like this. What if a stranger came up to you in the bar and was like, hey, you want to go get married? I hope you would say no or run away. This is the same thing, okay? You've got a date before you get married. Keep that in mind when you are reaching out to leads on LinkedIn. Okay, so you've started reaching out to your leads on LinkedIn, you've started sending them messages. A lot of people are going to ignore you. That's just how it is. That's sales. But you got to keep in mind that when it comes to sales and marketing, it's a funnel. At the top of the funnel, you have all of your leads, okay? So you're reaching out to a lot of people. But by the time you get to the bottom of the funnel, you're only going to have a small percentage of those leads that are going to convert into paying clients. This is how business works, okay? Everything is a funnel. Now, as I kind of alluded to earlier, LinkedIn is just the platform where we kind of start the conversation and plant the seed. The goal of the LinkedIn message is to move the conversation to email, where you can have a much longer and more detailed and more fruitful conversation. And once you do that, you want to ask your lead if they'd like to get on a call. Now, full disclosure, a lot of leads aren't going to want to get on a phone call or a Zoom call or whatever, and that's okay, but offer anyway. Getting on a call, whether it's a phone call or a Zoom call or whatever, really helps to remove some of the mystery around who you are, and it builds trust, it builds authority, and it's going to help you land more clients. Now again, if they don't want to get on a call, don't force it, but always offer. The conversation is going to naturally start unfolding from there, but many of these conversations look the same. They're probably going to ask to see samples of your work, and eventually your rates are going to come up. But this all started on LinkedIn. LinkedIn was the source. There's something I already mentioned earlier, but I want to come back to it because I see a lot of people kind of knocking LinkedIn for this reason and saying LinkedIn doesn't work to land clients, and that's just not true. You need to adjust your expectations. We do not use LinkedIn to sell. We don't use LinkedIn to directly make money. The relationship is less direct than that. So when people complain that they're not making any money off of LinkedIn, my reaction is like, and? Are you surprised by that? This is a journey, okay? You're taking the lead on a journey. You find them and introduce yourself on LinkedIn. You take it to email, you possibly take it to a call, and then you close the deal and make money. But do you see how there are all these little pit stops along the way before you earn money? I'm telling you right now that if you try to cram all of these steps into a brief conversation on LinkedIn, it's probably not going to work. In Revenue Spark, my students get my complete A to Z process for landing clients, and LinkedIn is a huge part of it, but it's not the only part. There are a bunch of other steps, like how to handle the sales call, how to set your rates, how to craft a proposal, and on and on and on. Okay, so let's keep going. I get a lot of comments and DMs from freelancers saying something like, I've reached out to so many leads on LinkedIn and I still haven't landed any clients. Can you help? And I tell them, I sure can. If you want more guidance, here's my program. Go check it out. Without knowing the exact steps that you've taken, it's really hard to tell you where you're going wrong. But I would first remind you to revisit the 3 mistakes that I talked about earlier. Your messages are too long, you're selling too soon, and you're not personalizing your messages. If you're already avoiding these things, the next thing I would consider, this is also something I see a lot of freelancers doing. They'll reach out to 5 people, won't hear back, and then they'll be like, doesn't work. Of course it doesn't work. 5 leads is nothing. Get back to me after like 50 leads. Another common mistake that I see freelancers making is that they're focusing too much on themselves and not enough on the lead. Your leads don't care about you in the beginning. They have no reason to care about you. They don't know you. Your messaging needs to be about what they get out of you, not you yourself. A lot of freelancers who come into my program, I notice that they're not super clear on who they are and what they offer. I'll ask them, what kinds of services do you want to sell? And they might say something like, well, I'm a freelance writer, but I also do customer service. And they're trying to pitch those 2 things together. Those are 2 completely different things, and you're gonna confuse your leads. Finally, they aren't always clear on who their ideal client even is. They're pitching everyone and anyone, and they can't figure out why they're not hearing back. So one of the first things that we work on together is getting crystal clear on who they are as a freelancer and who their dream client is. You want to be very intentional and very specific and calculated with your approach. You can still try different things, and I do believe there's some merit in the saying, the idea of throwing spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks. But you got to be careful not to take that to an extreme, because if your approach to landing clients is very random and kind of all over the place, you're not going to be able to find any patterns. You're not going to be able to pinpoint what works so that you can double down on it and what doesn't work so that you can shelve it. Does it feel like there are a ton of moving parts? There are. Building a business isn't easy and it's not straightforward. When I first started freelancing and I was like first building my business, I don't really remember people talking about how to do it and how to land clients. These days, a ton of people are teaching it. I don't think they're teaching it the right way a lot of the time. A lot of people call themselves a coach. In fact, I've stopped calling myself a coach because I feel like they've gotten such a bad reputation, which I understand. Anyway, I learned by doing. I learned through trial and error, and it took years. But now I have this repeatable process that gives me mostly predictable results. It's not perfect, nothing is perfect, but it's consistent and I can count on it. And other people are copying this process to build their own freelancing businesses, and it removes a lot of the guesswork so that you can spend way less time on trial and error like I did and more time on growth. It's really interesting. As I've gotten older, and I would say especially since the pandemic, and I'm noticing this with a lot of my students too, we're not like dying to be business owners just for the sake of being business owners. I don't care about being a boss babe anymore. To me, freelancing is a path to freedom. With freelancing, I work with who I want, selling the services that I want, when I want, where I want, at the price that I want. And with that freedom and flexibility, I've made room for a life. Is it perfect? No. No career path is perfect. But I have a lot more freedom now than I used to. And I have a lot more control than I used to. I play with the dogs and plant lettuce and go hiking in Mount Charleston. You get the point. I want to have a life. Freelancing is the vessel that brings me there. It allows me to live. And that's why we do this. I have a whole community of people just like you who have entrusted me with their journey, and I would love for you to be a part of it. So if you're looking for help building your freelancing business as a means to find freedom, then I'm going to leave the link below where you can learn more about my program, Revenue Spark. You can check out the curriculum, you can view some testimonials from my students inside the program, and if you think you're interested in talking more about it, the next step is to book a call with me so I can be really sure that I'm able to help you. That's all for today. You know the drill. If you're still here and you like this video, all I ask is that you give it a thumbs up so YouTube knows that you like my content. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time.